Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to a moment we all eventually face. The moment when the odds are stacked, the noise is deafening, and the world expects you to quit. That moment isn't just a challenge, it is a test. It's what I call the last stand. See, every one of us carries a breaking point, but what defines us is not the weight we carry. It's what we do when the weight feels unbearable. Do we collapse or do we rise? Because your last stand is not about the end, it's about proving to yourself that you are greater than the struggle in front of you. It's about discovering a part of yourself that comfort could never introduce you to. And here's the truth, nobody gets remembered for walking away when things got hard. You get remembered for standing when standing seemed impossible. You get remembered for choosing fight over fear, persistence over doubt, and resilience over surrender. Your last stand is not the final chapter. It is the chapter where you show the world, and more importantly yourself, that you are unstoppable. There comes a time in every single one of our lives where the weight of the world feels unbearable, where the noise outside feels louder than the voice inside, and where every step forward feels like you're dragging chains behind you. It is the moment where quitting whispers to you like a sweet lullaby, promising you relief if you just let go. But that moment, the one where you think you've reached the end of your rope, is not the end. That is what I call the last stand. The last stand is not about death. It's not about endings. It's about the moment you refuse to be broken. It's about the moment when your back is against the wall, when the crowd has counted you out, when even you are beginning to doubt yourself, and still you plant your feet, raise your chin, and say, "Not yet." That is what the last stand means. It's not surrender. It's defiance. It's not silence. It's a roar from the deepest part of your soul. Think back on every story that has ever inspired you. The heroes of history, the icons of greatness, the ones whose names echo long after they've left this earth. They were not remembered because life was easy for them. They were remembered because when life tried to crush them, they made their last stand. They chose courage over comfort. They chose resilience over resignation. And that choice, that single choice, is why their stories live on. Now, let's bring it closer to you. Your last stand doesn't have to be a battlefield with swords and shields. It might look like the moment you face failure again and decide to get back up. It might be the morning you wake up after losing someone you love, and instead of staying down, you choose to live in their honor. It might be the time your dreams collapse in front of you and you rebuild from the rubble anyway. The last stand is the defining moment where your strength is no longer measured by the victories you've collected, but by your refusal to bow to defeat. You see, life has a way of testing us. It doesn't announce the test in advance. It doesn't hand out a study guide. It just throws you into the fire and waits to see who you really are. And it's in that fire, in that pressure, that you are revealed. Diamonds aren't made in comfort. Steel isn't forged in softness. And greatness doesn't grow in the absence of struggle. It grows in the face of it. I want you to remember something. The last stand is not the end of you. It is the beginning of the truest version of you. Because the person you are when things are easy is not the person who will change the world. The person who changes the world is the one who has been broken, battered, and scarred, but chose to keep moving anyway. The scars on your soul are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you stood your ground when life tried to bury you. They are your medals of honor. Most people quit too soon. That's the reality. They give up not because they don't have what it takes, but because they confuse a hard season with a final destination. They think pain is permanent when in truth, pain is temporary, but quitting makes it forever. Quitting makes it final. And the reason the last stand matters is because it's the bridge between the life you have and the life you've always wanted. Picture it like this. Every setback, every hardship, every heartbreak is like a storm. And when that storm hits, you have two choices. You can run from it, or you can plant your feet and weather it. And those who plant their feet, those who face the storm, are the ones who come out the other side transformed. Not the same, stronger, wiser, unstoppable. The last stand is about proving to yourself that you're bigger than the problem in front of you. It's about proving that your spirit cannot be broken by circumstance. Because here's the truth, the greatest battles you will ever fight won't be with other people, they will be with yourself. With your doubt, your fear, your insecurity, your past. And your last stand is not about conquering the world. It's about conquering yourself. When you win that battle, when you master that discipline, everything else becomes possible. Think about your life right now. Maybe you're in the middle of your last stand. Maybe you're fighting to save your dream. Maybe you're trying to hold on to your family. Maybe you're pushing through failure after failure. Maybe you're on the verge of letting go. If that's you, I want you to hear me clearly. This is not your end. This is your test. This is your fire. This is the moment where the weak parts of you will fall away and the strongest version of you will rise. And if you're not in that moment yet, trust me, one day you will be. And when that day comes, I want you to remember what I'm telling you right now. I want you to remember that the last stand is not a curse. It's not something to fear. It's an invitation to step into a version of yourself that comfort has never let you meet, an invitation to write a story worth telling. Because, let's be honest, nobody gets inspired by someone who had it easy. Nobody writes books or makes movies about the person who never struggled, never failed, never doubted, never bled. No. The stories that stir our souls are the stories of people who made their last stand. People who could have quit, but didn't. People who could have surrendered, but chose to fight. And the reason those stories matter is because they remind us of what we're capable of too. So here's the question I want to leave you with when your last stand comes. And what will you do? Will you lay down and let the world decide who you are? Or will you rise even when it hurts, even when you're afraid, even when you don't know how you're going to make it, and decide for yourself? Will you show the world that you are more than your circumstances, more than your pain, more than your doubts? Because that is the power of the last stand. It's not about being fearless. It's about standing in the face of fear and choosing to move anyway. It's not about being unbreakable. It's about being broken and still choosing to rise. It's not about winning every battle. It's about refusing to surrender to defeat. Ladies and gentlemen, the last stand is the moment that will define you, not because of how the world sees you, but because of how you see yourself. And when that moment comes and you feel like you can't go on, I want you to remember this: you are stronger than you think, braver than you believe, and more capable than you could ever imagine. The last stand is your chance to prove it, not to the world, but to yourself. So when life corners you, when the battle feels too big, when surrender feels easier, plant your feet, raise your head, and say, this is not how my story ends. Because it won't be. It will be the moment your real story begins. Imagine standing at the edge of everything you've ever known. Behind you is the life you've lived so far, the victories, the failures, the scars, the memories. In front of you is the unknown, a wall of challenges that feels taller than mountains and darker than midnight. Your hands are shaking, your heart is pounding, and every voice in your head is screaming, this is too much. You can't win this one. You should give up. That is the moment I call the last stand. And I need you to understand something. The last stand isn't about when everything is perfect. It's about when nothing is. It's about when your back is against the wall, when no one is coming to save you, and you realize the only thing left to rely on is you. And in that moment, you are given a choice. Will you fold or will you fight? Because the last stand isn't about the outcome. It's about the decision. When you think about the greatest moments in human history, they were born in situations where surrender would have been easier. They came from people who were exhausted, broken, and told that they were finished. But instead of listening to the voices of doubt, they stood, they said, if I fall, I'll fall forward. If this is my end, then let it be written that I refuse to quit. That decision, that refusal, is what makes a last stand unforgettable. But here's the secret no one talks about. You've already faced last stands before. Think back. That heartbreak that almost tore you apart, but you survived. That rejection letter that felt like the end of your dream, but you kept going. That day when you thought you couldn't possibly get out of bed, but you did anyway. Those were your last stands. And you made it through. You didn't realize it then, but those moments weren't meant to destroy you. They were meant to show you the strength you didn't know you had. The truth is, your last stand won't always look heroic. Sometimes it's not loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's the moment you whisper to yourself, one more step, one more try, one more day. And yet, those quiet choices build a life of resilience louder than any battle cry. The last stand doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. It doesn't require you to be fearless. It requires you to face fear and move anyway. See, the reason most people quit is not because they don't have what it takes. It's because they mistake pain for permanence. They believe the storm will never end, so they stop walking through it. But storms are temporary. Pain is temporary. Struggle is temporary. What's permanent are the choices you make in your last stand. Those choices will echo in your future. They will shape your character. They will determine the story people tell about you. So let me ask you, when your last stand comes, and it will, what will your story be? Will you be the one who let the weight of the world bury you? Or will you be the one who said, I may bend, but I will not break. I may stumble, but I will not stop. I may be bloodied, but I will not be beaten. Because that's what defines you. Not the comfort you enjoyed, not the easy days, but the days when you wanted to surrender and instead chose to stand. And don't think for a moment that your last stand is just about you. Every time you fight back, every time you refuse to surrender, every time you rise when the world thinks you're finished, you give someone else permission to do the same. You light a path for someone who is lost in their own darkness. You remind them that strength is possible, that survival is possible, that victory is possible. Your last stand becomes a beacon for someone else's battle. Ladies and gentlemen, the last stand is not something to fear. It's something to embrace, because it's in that moment, when you have nothing left but the decision to keep going, that you finally meet the most powerful version of yourself. And when you do, you'll realize that the hardest battles were not meant to destroy you. They were meant to reveal you. So the next time life corners you, the next time the voices of doubt scream at you to quit, the next time you think you can't go any further, I want you to stop and remember, this is not the end. This is your last stand. Plant your feet. Raise your head. Look the storm in the eye and declare, this is not how my story ends. Because it won't be. It will be the moment your real story begins.